there are deep divisions within the Victorian Liberal Party about how they should be approaching the Premier Daniel Andrews. There's been a lot of frustration internally about the more constructive approach that the opposition leader Michael O'Brien is taking. That has led to outbreaks from state MPs like Tim Smith, who's been very critical of Daniel Andrews, said some pretty colourful language about the Premier
blood
having
on his hands.
Yeah. And then we saw last week Michael Sukkar come out as well, a federal MP for the first time. Now, what I've reported today is that in a hookup of state and federal Liberal Party presidents, the Victorian President Robert Clarke said that he backed the constructive approach that Michael O'Brien has taken. Now, in many ways, it's not that surprising that the Victorian President would back the Victorian Parliamentary Party, but this has caused a lot of consternation internally because people think the direction is wrong, and they saw it as a swipe of MPs who have come out and been critical of Andrews. Now, what's interesting is after that meeting, we saw the most senior Victorian in the Parliamentary Party, Josh Frydenberg, increasingly be critical of Dan Andrews, and now this morning of the Victorian Health Minister. So we are seeing frustration about how Dan Andrews, the Liberals, should approach Dan Andrews, and division.
Well, I mean, the Victorian government has definitely kicked a few own goals when it comes to all of this. So are you suggesting that the opposition is also on top of that, landing a few pretty good punches?
No, well, what I'm suggesting is that there's, so for Michael O'Brien has sought to be a bit more conciliatory than perhaps his some of his colleagues would like. Now, there's a debate about how you handle this. One is that just get through the crisis and, smash them up politically, closer to the election. Yeah. The other is, there's been great mistakes made. Our job is to hold them to account. Let's go hard right now. Scott Morrison is going to try and stay above the fray of this, but it was interesting. His language did change on Friday towards the Victorian government. He did sort of acknowledge there had been criticisms and confusion of the restrictions. And so while he has not been critical of the government at all, he certainly didn't endorse the plan from the Victorian Premier.
OK, let's have a quick look at a few other front pages, Greg. Face mask shortages on the front line. This is on the front page of The Age this morning. It's a pretty worrying development for those on the front line too. Yeah,
that's right. I think what it shows is despite all the headway we've made in personal protective equipment, in manufacturing it, and, increasing intensive care beds and the like, I think that if there's a big spike in infections, that, the system will come under pressure. So, we've seen this spike in Victoria, and if it happens nationally, or if it gets much worse, then the reality is that, it's going to be hard to provide face masks and beds and ventilators for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And meanwhile, mental health is becoming more and more of an issue. There's an uptick in it probably doesn't surprise that many people, as a matter of fact, that more and more people are seeking mental health. This is on the front page of The Age this morning too. So $60 million has been set aside to tackle that spike in self-harm.
Yeah, 33% increase of people being admitted to hospital in Victoria for self-harm over the past 6 weeks at the same time as last year. So that's very worrying, and I think it shows that this pandemic and the virus the problems are multifaceted. It's obviously the virus itself, but it's also, the economic problems and the mental health issues from people not being able to go about their everyday lives.
Just finally, Greg, Rosspatrick stepping aside from his party anyway, going to run as an independent next time around. Does that surprise you?
He must have got some internal polling, Peter, that showed him that Central Alliance was on the nose a bit. But I was surprised to hear that this morning. But he certainly has been seemingly running his own race a bit for a while now. Centre Alliance's low vote at the last election certainly scared him, and he's been very, very outspoken in the media and tried to really, make himself well known to the public, and particularly in South Australia. So he's obviously decided that his personal brand is bigger than the Centre Alliance brand. And remains to be seen how that'll work out for him.
Okay.